Well, just one day left for this year's PA Farm Show. It's been a lot of fun out there, but agriculture is also a serious business.
Our Seth Kaplan has gotten more than his share of both play and work this year. Seth, I heard you learned something interesting today.
Yeah, Alicia and Valerie, why am I standing with countless apples? Well, because although Washington State sells more apples than any other state, today I learned Pennsylvania ranks 4th among all states and might soon be selling a lot more apples outside the states.
Consumers around the globe want farm products from Pennsylvania, but sometimes there are regulatory barriers.
That is America's top trade negotiator and Pennsylvania native, Ambassador Doug McCaleb, touring the farm show with PA Ag Secretary Russell Redding.
We work on negotiating improvements in policy that will give our farmers a level playing field.
Meaning things like lower tariffs. A big recent win, he says, for selling 12 key commodities abroad.
Blueberries, cranberries,
and apples. Pennsylvania is the number 4 apple producing state in all of America.
This is a really big deal. So now you have Adams County apples in New York and the rest of the state.
Able to finally sell apples to India, which now has more people than any other country in the world.
And it was like this sort of weight was lifted that we're finally back in that market that moves apples and gives folks a lot of hope about the next season.
There are plenty of people right here in America, so why are exports so important?
We consume it here, but we also need folks who are, many miles from here, and 95% of the available stomachs are someplace other than the United States of America.
Of course, agriculture doesn't just mean food.
There's a reason we stood still right here, right?
At the hardwood exhibit.
Our number 1 export from Pennsylvania are hardwoods, so it's really important economically.
McCaleb says efforts to lower tariffs and other barriers are bearing fruit.
The U.S. has set 3 record years in a row for farm exports.
Probably close. About almost $200 billion last year for farm exports, for that matter. Now, what about farm show attendance? I'm looking at some really long lines for donuts and whatnot behind the camera there. I asked the ag folks if maybe, it feels so packed, could they set some kind of record this year? They said no. The snowstorm last weekend and then the bad weather, the flooding midweek this week makes that impossible. Of course, we won't know any final numbers until after tomorrow. That's the final day of the farm show. How will the weather look tomorrow? Jackson Chastain has the answer to that question.